Today in Geography 8th grade, we're going to take a look at our Chapter 12 Geography Skills activity for Northern and Southern Europe. The skill that we're looking to advance today is that of reading a circle graph. Let's go through our reading on learning the skill. A circle graph, like other types of graphs, presents and summarizes information visually. To read a graph, first read the graph's title and define its subject. You should use a circle graph when you want to show the whole of something is divided into its parts. Because of their shape, circle graphs are often called pie graphs. Each slice represents a part of the percentage of the whole pie, and the complete circle represents a whole group, or 100%. Practicing the skill. Study the circle graph and answer the questions. So the first thing you're supposed to do is take a look at the title of that graph, which says Mediterranean tourist arrivals by destination in 2011. So what we're looking at here is an understanding of the way of life in Southern Europe based on the tourism that's happening in the different locations. So we have a number of countries that are going to be listed here, and the percentage of the overall transportation and tourist industry that's happening in these areas. Based on what we know about physical geography, the northern portion of Europe is much more frigid and cold. Its climate is much cooler than in the southern portion in the Mediterranean, where you have really hot, warm summers right near this massive, huge body of water, which is going to be something that people want to go travel to and experience. Especially if they're coming from a place that's cooler, they're a lot of times traveling and tourism or practicing tourism in places that are warmer, more vacation-like destinations. So let's see how those percentages play out in this pie graph. Let's answer the questions. Number one, what does this circle graph show? Well, it shows the percentage of the total number of tourists who visit various countries. We know that of all of the tourism that happens, you take that entire population of what is a known fact or estimated fact of here's how many people actually travel to other countries in this part of the world. And where did most of those people go? Where did most of that travel happen? Now this can tell you two things. One, which of these countries has a huge tourist type of economy, and which of these countries have the physical geography that is alluring and attractive to people for them to come and see. So number one, it shows the percentage of total number of tourists who visited various countries in this region. Number two, what country received the largest percentage of tourists? France is here at 26. Spain is at 19, Italy is at 15, Turkey is at 10, Greece is at 5. Other, which would be a conglomerate of other countries, is at 7%. And then look at all of these. 2% are these kind of smaller countries. It's interesting that the two largest countries have the largest overall territory, would have the largest amount of tourism. So what country received the largest percent? That would be France. Number three, does the graph show how many tourists actually visited each country? No, it only shows a percentage of the visitors for each country. It doesn't give us the actual number statistic. You probably have to go to the actual source, the World Tourism Organization here, to see what those numbers look like in that specific year. And it's probably varied each year just based on what's going on. For example, in the year 2019, 2020 with the pandemic, there's probably going to be less tourism that was listed in 2020 than there was in 2019 or 2018 or 2017 or in 2011, just based on the aspect of things being shut down and closed down. Number four, about 300 million tourists visited the Mediterranean region in 2011. How many tourists visited Greece? Well, how would you go about calculating this? You'd take the number 300 million and then you'd multiply by 5% or 0.005. That's going to give you a total of about 15 million people. If you know what that total is, then you can use the calculation and the percentage to calculate how that's going to turn out into a number. Let's apply the skill. Study the graph and circle the answers. Again, it's the same graph. We've got information. Sorry, it's not the same graph. It's Mediterranean tourist receipts by destination. As in, here are the people who have traveled from place to place. What is this information telling us? The total amount of money that's being spent in each of these countries. Number one, what does the circle graph show? It shows where these people traveled and then where they're actually willing to spend their money while they're on vacation. Obviously, going on vacation, there's some planning that goes into place to say, well, I'm going to go to this place. I've got to save money in how I'm going to get there. Am I driving to this location? Am I flying to this location? Am I taking a cruise to this location? Because in the Mediterranean, you can take a cruise really similar to what you might be able to do in Florida or in the Caribbean here in the United States. So how do you get there? And then when you're there, you obviously have to spend money to do certain things. That's why tourist attractions and tourist destinations have all these opportunities for people to partake in. Where does that money get spent? You can see here that it shows where the receipts are, tourist receipts, so the amount of money that's being spent. Which three countries together receive 45% of all tourism dollars or tourism money? If you added up three of these, you could say that France at 20%, Italy at 16% gets you at 36, and 23 more percent is going to give you a total of 45 or 46% in terms of Spain. So the three largest countries in overall size in the relationship to tourism is also where most of that money is being spent. Obviously makes sense. More people are traveling there, therefore more people are spending money there. Number 3, tourists spent a total of 265 billion with a B US dollars in the Mediterranean region in 2011. How much money was spent in France? You take 265 billion and you would multiply that by a 20%, 0.2, and then it would give you a total of 53 billion. 20% of 265 billion is $53 billion came into France's economy based on people visiting France. And number 4, compare the percentage of tourists who visited Spain and France with the percentage of total number of dollars spent. What do the circle graphs tell you about the tourist spending in these countries? Well, Spain was at 23% in terms of dollars spent, but Spain's overall tourism was slightly lower. France was at 26% in overall travel, and there was a lower amount of money being spent. So fewer tourists spent more money in Spain. If Spain's number grows with a smaller number of tourists, so we went from 19 to 23, that means that less people traveled there, but when they traveled there, they actually spent more money. In France, you have the opposite effect. More people traveled there, maybe because of France's allure, its cuisine, its romantic destinations like Paris, that you have more people traveling there, but less money actually being spent. It might depend on the local economy and what the actual exchange rate is for the monies that are being spent in those areas. Thanks for following along. That's the practicing skill of circle graphs in relation to geography. God's blessings.